Hey, yo, I want to talk about SpongeBob SquarePants and capitalism. A content creator moaning about capitalism? Must be another day on YouTube, am I right? But I want to make this video talking about these cards because attempting to make this video talking about these cards did psychic damage to me. See, for me right now, it's the 11th of March, 2025. I'd literally just started production on what might now be last week's video discussing the Spider-Man cards when I saw WotC had revealed these SpongeBob cards too. I assume as part of their efforts to bombard players with constant spoilers so that no one can think straight. Animation takes a while, so usually I work a week or two in advance, but the reason I've stopped production on that Spider-Man video to record this as soon as possible was because I wanted to do something similar again. I was planning on, before having seen them, taking a guess at what these cards do mechanically, or at least what cards they're reskins of, before they're spoiled for me and I accidentally find out. And the best way to ensure I'd go into that kind of video blind is to do it as quickly as possible. Time was of the essence. But as I sat down to record my thoughts and impressions, I realised I had something else to say instead. I couldn't get over this nagging sensation, this void, this abyss, this something made of nothing, a nothing noticeable and oppressive. So I've decided to push on today and get at least this part of the video done because I'm curious if doing so will underline my overall point. It is the 11th of March 2025 and I don't think this video will be finished for about 3 weeks as I work on other stuff. I wonder what other reveals and spoilers we will have gotten in that time. Perhaps none, but with Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, Avatar, not to mention any upcoming supplemental commander decks or secret lairs, I suspect that won't be the case. So, if I'm correct, let this video stand as a monument to just how ridiculous the rate of release and constant demand for your attention has become. I do this full time and I'm choosing to ignore covering most reveals because there's literally too much for me to talk about in depth. And I haven't even mentioned Tarkir Dragonstorm yet. I don't even know if that set's already out, I'm losing track. But back to SpongeBob, and as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of people have issues with these cards. When Universes Beyond was first introduced via that Walking Dead crossover, not all of us, admittedly, but a large portion of Magic's player base weren't happy. I'm gonna tap Gandalf and then using Iron Man target your SpongeBob was the joke. It was our fear laid out in what we thought was a comedic example taken to the extreme to underline our concern over what Magic may become now that the door to external IPs had been opened. Oh, how right we were, but I don't think any of us truly believed it. Sure, The Walking Dead sort of fits, but imagine if it was SpongeBob, we would say. Imagine if they put him in Magic, that would be the final straw. That's the worst we can think of, and now with these Universes Beyond cards, that's what they could do. We would fret assuming it would never actually come to pass or get that bad. And yet, like frogs being boiled slowly enough over time so as not to notice the changing temperature, the player base has come to not only expect these sorts of things, but accept them. Now, disclaimer. Ultimately, we're discussing a children's card game, and never has that been more apparent to me than now. Don't like it, don't buy it. Sure, whatever, I don't so I won't. But if you do like it, then don't let some grumpy old dick online like myself dissuade you from having a good time. Realistically, how you choose to enjoy a children's card game is no concern of mine. I may roll my eyes and audibly sigh if ever I see one of these cards in the wild, and I will continue to complain and point out flaws and errors as I see them. But at the end of the day, even though I've decided to dedicate my life to talking about this dumb game apparently, I don't actually care what cards you choose to run. I'm not going to lose sleep over it, so you shouldn't either. In essence, I'm telling you I'm mouthy, opinionated, and often wrong, so don't listen to me. And you know what? Credit where it's due. I still haven't actually looked at the cards, but as I understand, they're not mechanically unique. They are reskins. One of the biggest issues I have with all of these goddamn mechanically unique Universe Beyond cards is that you don't have a choice in the flavour of their presentation. Now these Doctor Who, Fallout and Warhammer cards, and even the upcoming Spider-Man, Final Fantasy and previous Lord of the Rings sets all had the good graces to appear in products on shop shelves. Would I prefer Universes Within versions like we saw with the Street Fighter, Stranger Things and Walking Dead cards? Of course, and as a quick aside, I know there will be some people that say, well, what does it matter if they're not in-universe versions? Just play the original cards, who cares? But if your argument is that the art and flavour of a card truly doesn't matter, then I'd flip that argument around and say, well, if it doesn't matter, why do we need all of these outside IPs then? But at least by having these products on shelves, they were readily available. Unlike those awful Marvel cards which were only available via the Secret Lair website, in limited numbers, which forced people to queue for hours before many of those people were told the cards had sold out. I talked about the history of it in this video here, but Secret Lair's move away from a print-to-demand model wasn't anything new or surprising to me. They've just found a new way to make cards like Lara Croft here capitalise on FOMO more than it already did, which is why this card is still the most offensive one to me in the game. So I like that these SpongeBob cards are reskins because at least if you want to play the effects of the cards you still have other options to get them, But to my knowledge, they're still a secret lair, and the problems that I suspect people will have with acquiring them won't be the result of an issue with the system, but the intended purpose of it. The more difficult these cards are to get, the rarer they'll be perceived, and thus more deserving of the high cost demanded for an otherwise underwhelming reprint. And to prove how confident I am in that prediction, I will remind you I have not seen them and I'm refusing to look at whatever example card is on screen right now. I don't know what it is, but I'd bet money on it being some janky worthless crap that they're now packaging at an insane price point like they do with every secret lair. Am I right? Let me know in the comments. Now back to my overall point, and I have another disclaimer. All this video is an explanation as to why when I looked in the eyes of SpongeBob SquarePants, all I saw reflected back at me was the bottom of the barrel, capitalism's endpoint. And while I'm going to complain about that here, I'm sad to say that there's no solutions at the end of the video. Not even really any concrete problems I can point to, and certainly no answers for them. I do have one idea of maybe how things could be better, but it's not actionable, not really, and honestly, I've said it before, but I'm a cartoon cat. I'm not going to fix capitalism via YouTube. So I want this video instead to stand as a testament to my thoughts, feelings, and honest reaction to seeing this. One of the reasons I'm often so negative is I think it's important to have feedback and critique for Hasbro WotC on the record. And not just mine either, often in videos, that Aphidrift one was a prime example, I'll attempt to put into words the general vibe and consensus I think is coming from my echo chamber corner of the community, even if I haven't experienced what they're saying or necessarily agree with it myself. Because A, there's an off chance someone working at WotC will actually see that video and then get a sense of what we as players are unhappy with, and maybe improve it. B, I do it for you guys, for those that agree with the sentiments I've expressed, so at the very least you know you're not alone in thinking and feeling these things. And finally C, to get a conversation going, even if I am wrong. Because hey, if you disagree, let me know why. As I say, I'm often wrong, but hearing each other out and understanding one another is always a positive step towards improvement for everyone. If this channel is going to honestly report back the consensus of the player base, then I need to know what that consensus is, so feel free to comment regardless of your opinion. All the reasons I just mentioned I think are hugely important. However, going back to my first disclaimer, I'm also not so arrogant as to assume I'm some sort of voice of the people, and like I keep saying, I'm wrong all the time, but I still think it's important to try and capture these sentiments regardless. Feedback, critique, and review are important. Without them, things don't change, and that's kind of what this video is today. A complaint, a vibe, a record sent out into the ether in the hopes that tomorrow might be better for it, and if not, we'll provide evidence as to why. Because yes, these cards are a joke, and I do get it, but is being funny the reason Hasbro has made the licensing agreement to print them? Or perhaps like Steve Buscemi in a legally distinct advertiser-friendly AC/DC t-shirt, is some corporate CEO trying to hello fellow kids their way into monetizing meme culture? And if looking at SpongeBob cards forces me to reconcile with whether the joke is just a shallow attempt at a manipulative marketing tactic, and exactly what Hasbro would be willing to do for corporate growth, then I'm forced to ask whether the joke is funny or even worth it. So finally, let's talk about it. I sat down to predict the mechanics of these cards, took a brief look at the art, and nearly lost my goddamn mind as I connected dots that only an insane person would connect. But you know what's worse? I don't think I'm the only one who will connect them, and I'm worried that anyone who does might actually be right. Because I looked at these cards and it occurred to me that these cardboard effigies weren't made for love, but for money. I was reminded that Hasbro WotC are a business whose only goal is growth and capital. As I've already pointed out, I was reminded of the removal of print to demand with the restructure of secret lairs in what I expect is an attempt to generate FOMO. I was reminded of the ever-growing cost, not just in the normalization of increased prices, but also the shrinkflation of the game with less cards per pack and less packs per box. I was reminded of the ever-lowering quality, not just in what feels to me like lower-grade cardstock and more frequent curling, but in cut corners in development and production leading to more errors, and what I imagine is less care and attention given to accessories like those awful-looking bundle dice they sold at a premium. I was reminded of the workers, the human beings they fired just before Christmas 2023 and all the workers since, presumably in the hopes the wages they'd no longer get paid would help a line go up on some quarterly spreadsheet. I was reminded of that time they sent the Pinkertons to a YouTuber's house. Why? How was him opening a box he got sent early any different from what I believe are the intentional leaks WotC put out in the hopes of generating hype? If looking at the product puts people off buying the product, thus reducing profits, the issue there is not the person who's showing it off, but with the product itself. Taking a step back from Magic, I was reminded of WotC's actions during the OGL scandal, where they attempted to monopolize and claim ownership of community content. What was that statement they put out after the backlash was so bad they had to change course? Scroll down. Second, you're going to hear people say they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right, they won and so did we. Shut up, you mug. Taking a step back again and looking at WotC's overlords Hasbro, did you know about this? Ireland apologises for slave labour at Magdalen laundries, says The Guardian in 2013. Here's the Times. Convent paid pocket money to toy packers? Scroll down. Women housed by the Good Shepherd sisters in Waterford packaged board games for the global toy franchise Hasbro in return for pocket money as recently as 2012. Scroll down again. We received 50p, 63 cents for pocket money each week, one woman explained. Another woman said she received no money, just food for her work packaging these board games. Scroll down again. Julie Duffy, a spokeswoman for Hasbro Inc. said, Rehab in Waterford many years ago approached Hasbro to provide small work tasks for the clients they serve. Hasbro viewed this as community service. Oh yeah, I bet it did. Keep scrolling. It showed that women who worked in the Good Shepherd sisters in Waterford received no pay or pocket money either, over decades. Is this really what I should be thinking about when trying to play a children's card game? And am I saying that a SpongeBob SquarePants card getting printed is really equivalent to Hasbro's involvement in a forced labour camp? No, obviously not, that's a bit dramatic even for me. But when a company like Hasbro is motivated by corporate greed, it doesn't take much to connect the dots as to what they'll be willing to do. And while I'll agree what I'm inferring is insane, I'd like to point out that I felt the exact same goddamn way when I, like everyone else, connected the dots when we made that exaggerated joke example of tapping my Gandalf so my Iron Man can target SpongeBob. But look where we are now. What once was madness is our reality. I sat down to talk about SpongeBob SquarePants and the realization dawned on me that what I once considered an example so ridiculous to the extreme that it was comedic has been proven to be possible. And part of my brain broke as I realized in my wildest imaginations, when given the opportunity to picture just how bad magic could get, the worst I could come up with, the very bottom of the barrel, was a SpongeBob SquarePants card. And WotC have just proven they can do that with ease. Gleefully so in fact, because I think this is actually 3 secret layers. Which means it isn't the bottom of the barrel. There is worse yet to come, and it is beyond my comprehension. I cannot, when tasked, imagine to what depths this game that I love can sink. It is so far beneath my realms of comprehension, I am not capable of picturing where they could possibly go from here. But I'm confident that Hasbro's profit mandate will force them to find a way. So fuck me, look at us. Together yet somehow alone, on the edge of reason, staring into the vapid abyss of capitalism's final destination. Tomorrow's horror of corporate greed for me is unknown and yet may have already come to pass because again, from my perspective, today is the 11th of March 2025. And when looking to the past to try and predict Hasbro's future, I am horrified by what I find. And the worst part about all of this, the truly mad part, it doesn't even look like it's working for them. Wizards segment declined 7% says Hasbro's 4th quarter 2024 highlights. So then, why? I said earlier I had no answers for the end of the video, except one that isn't actionable. In 2022, Hasbro ended a campaign by some of its shareholders to spin WotC off into an independent entity. In my opinion, that's a shame, because detaching the company from the corporate overlords at Hasbro could potentially result in lower profit targets, which may result in higher quality and lower costed products and a better working environment for the staff. I think the game was better off before Hasbro cracked down on WotC. And if WotC did spin off into its own independent entity, I'm saying in essence the game might finally come first again instead of the money. I look at these SpongeBob cards and they're such an obvious meme that I'm forced to reason they came into existence for one of 2 reasons. First, and what I suspect is the more likely, someone at Hasbro said, hey, these will make money, do it. Which means these cards are little more than a manipulative marketing gimmick based not in love and passion for the game but in greed. And that thought upsets me. Or second, and it's unlikely, but maybe someone at WotC just really loves SpongeBob. Maybe 1 or 2 developers put in the work to get these cards made because they have a genuine love and passion for them. And if that's the case, I actually think it's even worse. Because if that's true, then I'll be heartbroken that something that I love just as much as those involved has been tarnished by a corporation to the point where I can't even look at them without being reminded of just how low this game has been dragged, and how tightly it's been squeezed in the name of quarterly profits. I look at SpongeBob SquarePants, and capitalism looks back. Now come check out my Patreon, I could use the support. Perfect timing, nailed it. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like Eggboy the particle that permeates all existence, Wanpaku Jozu, Miss Murder, a random Patreon, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen. Now, I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, install an ad block, most importantly subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or you want to see me do a video on another subject, let me know and I will see you next time. Is that going to make it into the outtakes? Probably not.